Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Report, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Salia Strzemska. In the beginning of Russia, as the country launched another attack on Ukraine, targeting the settlement of Yarova in the Donetsk region. President Zelenskyy said that more than 20 people had been killed. Let's go to our Ukraine correspondent, Oscar for the latest.
Russia has launched another deadly airstrike on the eastern region of Donetsk, targeting a village called Yarova, which is about 10 miles north of the city of Sloviansk. The governor, Falashkin, the governor of Donetsk, called the act an act of pure terrorism. As Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said, the strike targeted a group of people who were receiving their pension payments. Now, President Zelenskyy has released a statement following the attack. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
A brutally savage Russian airstrike with an aerial bomb on the rural settlement of Yarova in the Donetsk region, directly on people, ordinary civilians, at the very moment when pensions were being dispersed. According to preliminary information, more than 20 people were killed. There are no words. My condolences to all the families and loved ones of the victims.
So another day here in Ukraine with another deadly Russian airstrike with multiple fatalities. This is a situation that the Ukrainians are incensed with, and Zelenskyy making clear that he wants more action from Europe and from the G20 with regards to Russia. They want to see sanctions ramped up so that there is a cost towards Moscow for actions that leave so many Ukrainians dead in these terrible strikes that Russia continues to conduct against civilian targets in Ukraine. It's Oz Kataji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Latvia is expelling over 800 people to Russia for failing to pass a Latvian language test. The test was made compulsory for non-EU citizens wanting to stay in the country in 2022. Russians are a sizable minority in Latvia, with many having lived there for decades. After regaining independence in 1991, Latvia only offered citizenship to pre-World War II citizens and their descendants. Soviet citizens settling in the country later, mostly Russians, were not eligible. Tens of thousands of ethnic Russians remained functionally stateless for years. This despite being encouraged to pass a language and history test required for citizenship and free courses provided by the state. They could still live and work in the Baltic state. After the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the Latvian parliament passed a law requiring non-citizen residents to prove at least elementary Latvian language skills. Fewer than half of the affected Russian speakers did so by 2023, with the rest getting a 2-year grace period. The first batch of those who did not pass has now been requested to leave the country by mid-October. Moldova joining the European Union is not just about accession, it's about survival. This was the gist of the plea delivered by the country's President Maia Sandu in the European Parliament this afternoon. We're joined live by our EU correspondent Angela Skujins from Strasbourg. Good afternoon, Angela. Good to see you. So tell us more about the President's speech and why it resonated so well with the lawmakers.
Good afternoon. So yes, she delivered her speech at roughly 12 o'clock this afternoon, and it was stone cold silence for the 10 minutes of that speech delivered by Maia Sandu, the President of the Republic of Moldova. Many are seeing this as her last-ditch attempt to shore up support ahead of those pivotal parliamentary elections scheduled for the 28th of September. Many are seeing this as a potential referendum on whether that country still wants to join the European Union and whether it will fall foul due to Russian interference. This is something that Sandu highlighted in her speech. She stated accession is not just a technocratic process, it is a race against time to anchor our democracy inside the Union, where it will be protected from the greatest threat we face, which is Russia. Now, she also stated in her speech that Moldova lodged its application to join the European Union in 2022. This is the official date of when Russia started its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Those accession talks are still ongoing. They're still doing well, but we still have quite a few chapters to go. However, she reiterated this was the overall thrust of her speech, that joining the European Union is the best survival mechanism that Moldova can have when it comes to the future. It's important to point out that Moldova shares a 1,200-kilometre border with Ukraine. It is at the coalface of this alongside Poland. She also highlighted that the country has been targeted by cyber attacks, election manipulation, as well as disinformation. This chimes with what we're hearing from a lot of other leaders in that region, particularly Romania, in the run-up to those election contests. We'll have to wait and see how this pans out at the ballot box, but this is not Sandu's swan song in Strasbourg just yet. MEPs later this evening will discuss among representatives of the Commission as well as the European Council how they can continue supporting Moldova's resilience against hybrid threats from Russia as well as disinformation in the run-up to that election.
Angela Skujins reporting from Strasbourg. Thank you, much appreciated. Now that the French government has collapsed, questions arise over the future of the country's political scene. With France's tight public finance situation, the outlook is rather gloomy.
Pour l'approbation 194, contre 364.
In line with all predictions, French Prime Minister Bayrou's minority government lost a confidence vote. The result delighted many French people who couldn't contain their happiness while bidding farewell to the ousted official.
Personally, I'm extremely happy to see Bayrou go.
It's always a good thing to move on, to turn a page.
Faced with the tough situation, President Emmanuel Macron, who had appointed Bayrou, can now either pick his fifth prime minister in less than 2 years or call a snap election. The left-wing socialists are eyeing negotiations to break the deadlock.
If he loves this country, if he cares about the interests of the French, if he doesn't want to leave the far right as the only alternative, then, as I said, he should come and talk to us.
Another important group in the French Assembly, the far right, wants a fresh start, potentially with Macron out of the picture.
If we do not dissolve the National Assembly, if we do not return to the French people in one way or another, either by dissolving Parliament or by the resignation of President Emmanuel Macron and organising a new presidential election, which could allow the country to find not only a direction but stability, then I do not see how anything healthy could emerge from the situation.
For the time being, Macron has ruled out a snap election and aims to appoint Bayrou's successor within days. It remains uncertain, however, who he will pick after the conservative Bernier and the centrist Bayrou.
Maybe this time he will look to the left, and that would be a natural democratic decision to actually save his face and also save the country's culture of compromise.
But what truly lies at the bottom of the issue is the country's debt, which rose close to pandemic year levels, and the country's deficit amounted to nearly twice the EU's 3% threshold. The centre-right government's stance has been doomed from the get-go, experts say.
Forces on the centre-right want to do it by reducing spending, especially on social services. Folks on the left want to do it by increasing taxes on the wealthy. And those two ideas are incompatible.
The political turmoil now raises questions over France's military commitments to Ukraine.
How credible are we if domestically we cannot manage? So I guess our first priority right now is to manage the domestic political situation, to create stability.
Emmanuel Macron's second term as French president ends in 2027.
Markets have reacted calmly to the fall of François Bayrou's government. The Parisian Stock Exchange has been in the green on Tuesday, and interest on government bonds has risen only slightly. Experts say that a much bigger shock would be needed to bring the French economy down.
François Bayrou wanted to save France. Instead, France thanked him for his service. The fall of Bairu's government has not triggered a calamity on European markets, a common fear when there is political turmoil in a heavily indebted and important country like France.
So the financial markets reacted rather calm on the confidence vote yesterday in France, but also due to the fact that they already anticipated the result, that Bayrou will not survive this vote. And consequently, they already priced it in the last 2 weeks.
The main indicator everyone is looking at is the interest which the French government has to pay for the money it borrows. The higher it is, the riskier markets think a borrower is. And we can see that the yield on French 10-year bonds has risen in reaction to Bairu's losing the confidence vote, but only slightly. You have to put it into perspective, though, to see what it means, namely that the market has already priced in that risk. The yield on French bonds has been rising steadily since Bayrou became the prime minister.
I think we are quite far away from a point that this could lead to a crisis. Compared to 10 years ago, we have really strong institutions in Europe. We have, for example, the ESM. We have also the ECB that could step in. And overall, we have to say the financing cost of France with 3.5% is high, but compared to the past, we already have seen these levels.
However, we ought to remember what Ernest Hemingway wrote in The Sun Also Rises. How does one go bankrupt? 2 ways, gradually, then suddenly.
Nawrocki is in Finland to discuss the war in Ukraine and NATO's eastern security with his Finnish counterpart, Alexander Stubb. During the visit, he is also to take part in a wreath-laying ceremony and tour one of Helsinki's massive underground bomb shelters.
The trip follows Nawrocki's stop in Lithuania, where Russia's threat was also in focus. In Helsinki, he underlined Poland and Finland's shared understanding of Moscow's tactics.
The Polish and Finnish people know the Russian psyche and Vladimir Putin very well. This was the subject of my discussions with the president. We are deeply convinced that the war in Ukraine, while we await a lasting peace that is needed for our regions, also shows that Vladimir Putin is ready to strike at other countries as well.
Analysts say the visit highlights how Finland and Lithuania are now vital to NATO's defense.
Both Lithuania and Finland are very much connected to the security of the eastern flank of NATO. And of course, Finland is an extremely important player in terms of not only security of the eastern flank, but also the continued effort for the support given to Ukraine.
Symbolism also played its part. Nawrocki and Stubb honored Finland's independence hero Mannerheim before visiting the Merihaka bomb shelter. Built to protect hundreds, but also used daily as a gym and sports hall, a Finnish model of resilience. As Russia presses on in Ukraine, Warsaw and Helsinki are drawing closer, anchoring NATO's flank with history, unity and preparedness.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I've got breaking news from Poland as the country is to close border ahead of aggressive joint Russian-Belarusian military exercises. This information has just been released. The street in Lisbon, where a cable car derailed last week, killing 16 people and injuring 22 others, has now reopened for traffic. 4 of the injured remain in hospital.
Police have removed the barriers as well as flowers and candles left to commemorate the victims of the crash. Authorities have also indicated that cable car services on the street will remain suspended for at least the near future. The accident happened last week on Wednesday, when the cable of the famous Gloria funicular snapped, causing the vehicle to derail. The carriage transporting 40 people then hit a wall at 60 kilometers per hour. The ride was a popular attraction for tourists visiting the Portuguese capital.
And with this we conclude our news update. Thank you for watching and please stay tuned for more.